Okay, so I want to talk about miracles, miraculous signs, this sort of thing. At least that's what I'm going to start talking about. Who knows how it's going to end. I saw a video on YouTube, was it yesterday or day before? And it was this place in Jerusalem where they say once a year, they say the Spirit of Jesus is there, and everybody's torches light on fire, and they don't burn you. They were showing, basically it looks like a holographic fire, basically, where it's not, it's funny how it also, that fire seems to know what your clothes are too, meaning not only does it not burn you, it doesn't even burn your clothes. Somehow it knew where your clothes were purchased and who purchased it, right? The other thing is you don't see anybody using that fire on anybody else, meaning does it actually burn anything? They didn't show that on the video either. So there's a couple of things about that kind of make me raise my eyebrow. But anyway, there's this place in Jerusalem where once a year, people's little torches that they're given, that's the key, that they're given, light up with the fire thing, and it doesn't burn them. And they're just totally, and it said, and they say, only if you have complete faith, you won't be burned. I want to talk about people who believe because of miracles. If you believe because of a miracle, you will also disbelieve because of a miracle. Jesus said that in the end, there's going to be all kinds of miraculous signs that will mislead the world. Have we forgotten about that? I haven't. I'm not like reading my Bible every day, but I'll remember everything that was said in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that is one thing that I'll never forget. To be careful, to be on watch, because in the end, there's going to be a lot of miraculous signs, things that are basically miracles. Now, we've already seen this in the world of demonography, if you want to call it that, the study of demons. And for those who don't know, let me bring you up to speed. So there's a number of, in quotes, so-called magicians around the world. Cyril, Yif, David Blaine. There's a number of characters that are doing things that are beyond magic. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that some of the stuff might just be magic tricks, but they mix it with things that are not magic, that are beyond magic, they are supernatural, they are miraculous, they are miraculous signs. Oh, how could I forget Dynamo? It seems like every corner of the world has their sorcerer, whatever you want to call them, their little demon magician. I've seen a number of other, I don't remember their names, but I've seen other characters, the guy who's levitating things with his mind and his eyes go reptilian for a brief moment there while he's doing it. I mean, just weird things. And for those who have not seen these, I recommend you try to look it up. Just search around YouTube. Look it up. You need to see for yourself what people are doing out there. Miraculous signs. And these are people who are not from God. They hate God. They just talk, most of them have like this hedonistic message. They just say basically, live for pleasure, and that's it. And that is the devil's trick, since this world it's a sad world, and this world is a temporary place, and it's not eternal life. And it's to distract you from eternal life. It's to distract people from eternal life. And so, of course, that's his message, is stay asleep, little sheep. Stay asleep. That's his message. Of course it is. Now, later the message could be very different. It could be worship me, I'm God. That could be the message later on. It could change. But for what we know right now, the message is very benign, but the miraculous signs are there. So when you see something like this place where there's this, I just like to call it holographic fire, because if it doesn't burn anything else, of course it doesn't burn you. They're not showing that. And so that's the first step. I'm not even thinking it's fire until I at least see that. And then if that's the case, it's going to go down like a process of, okay, if then. But that's the first one that they didn't even demonstrate that was even real fire, that it was actually even burning anything. Meaning show it burn a bunch of paper, and then show the fire up against your face, and then see what happens. You know, if, yeah. Now let's just give them a benefit of the doubt. Okay, let's say they do that, and let's say they do bring a bundle of hay or whatever, or an unbeliever. There we go. Oh, that'd be the, because you could always fake the papers or whatever it is they're going to burn. Bring the unbeliever. Bring somebody who does not want to get burned. If it burns them, you don't got to go put it on their face. You can put it over their like hand or arm or something. If it burns them, but then does not burn the other man's face, it can still be a fake, but now it becomes very unlikely. Like they could have thrown a switch or something, but I doubt it. If that's the case, now we're dealing with something different. It's no longer just a magic trick. It's no longer just holographic fire. It's no longer some man-made invention. Now we're probably dealing with the supernatural, something demonic. The reason why I say it's straight from demonic and not from God is because Jesus already warned us about miraculous signs. He also said that only an adulterous generation seeks after miraculous signs. Now, I know I've talked about this before in recordings, but I'll talk about it all again like I never have. Only people who do not know who God is, only people who do not like God, etc., they seek after miraculous signs. This is how you know that the Hebrew culture, for the most part, was blind. Because, like in the story of Elijah, we know you come from God because of the miraculous signs. That doesn't mean he came from God. The devil can do miraculous signs. Demons do miraculous signs. Just because somebody does miraculous signs does not mean they came from God. It just means, hey, look, you better pay attention. This is important. But it doesn't mean it came from God. One of the things that makes me really raise my eyebrow too is when you see these demonic magicians and how they supposedly bring like dead animals to life. And again, this is a field that I'm not an expert in, and there's just so much that I don't know if we'll ever really know much all about or what the rules actually are. But just from what I'm seeing, most of the time these miraculous signs, these things, it's just the bending of material, the moving of material, it's just kind of altering physical material. It sometimes makes me feel like we're in a computer game and they have admin rights, you know, and they're kind of trolling us with admin rights, and we're all shocked by it, you know. But it's never really affected life. I have seen a couple though. I think it was from David Blaine where he brings like a bird back to life or something like that. So that makes you wonder. But, you know, the other possibility there, and again, they can very quickly relocate things, right? If you had two birds, one that was dead now and one that was alive, and they looked the same, you could swap them and boom, look, see, it's back to life. So there are some fishy things about that. And that's why it's probably only birds and bees that they can do. Because they can't do anything beyond that, because it's not actually bringing back to life. They're just swapping a dead one for a living one that look the same. But miraculous signs. So let me just cut to the chase. Jesus said, "You believe because you see the miraculous sign, but blessed are those who believe even though they don't see." What he was doing there was he was actually scolding people like Thomas and the people among him who they only follow Jesus because of a miraculous sign. These are like Christians who say, well, I believe because he rose from the dead. They didn't witness it. They don't know that. That's a matter of faith, and they don't realize it, that it's just a matter of faith. They've chosen to believe that. But they're saying that that's the only reason why. That's the only reason? You don't like anything he has to say? You don't like who he is? You just, well, I kind of have to because, he rose from the dead. That right there is what Jesus is addressing. These people who are like robots and think they have no free will. That's okay. They'll be released. They will be released. The moment there's a miraculous sign for another speaker, from another speaker who they do like more, who says, maybe says a message of, teaches sexual immorality is okay, or teaches that greed is okay. You can acquire as much as you want, so the whole world is poor and you're rich, and that's just fine. Yeah, if they do a miraculous sign, now they're going to be like, well, shoot, now I can choose between the one that did the resurrection and the one that did the other miraculous sign. Now I can choose. So don't worry, they'll follow the miraculous signs, which are like moth to the flame. Moth to the flame. Don't you remember, even it's written in the story of Moses, how Moses, his staff turned into a snake, and then the two sorceresses' staffs also turned into a snake? You see what I'm saying? Like, the world of demons can replicate a number of things that God does. A person's faith should not be rooted in miraculous signs. A miracle like Jesus' resurrection, for example, which is kind of the miracle of miracles, which nobody has ever replicated in the world of demons or anything like that. It is a reward, I think, to those who had faith. It is kind of like you see, you were right. You chose when you didn't know, and you were right. It seems more to be like a reward for the faith that was already there, not a reason to believe. Before I went into my agnosticism in my 20s, one of the things that really hit deep was when I realized the earliest mention of Jesus was by a man named Josephus, who was not a Christian, was a Jew, and it wasn't anything from Jesus' apostles. It was anything. It was. So I'm thinking, so wait a minute. So 40 years went on and nobody in that time wrote a single thing about Jesus? And it felt like it was a mismatch from the way I imagined it, where lots of people writing about Jesus and so on. Well, that's not to say they didn't write, because let's face it, a lot of paper from that time just doesn't last long. And so maybe there was, but we just don't have any. But what happened was I realized my belief system was based off of only reason. I had no faith. There was no choice involved. I wasn't choosing to believe something one way or the other. It was just like a mathematical, well, if he rose from the dead, he must be God. If he's God, then we have to accept everything he says. And there was no choice in there. There was no faith. And so when I had that belief system destroyed, I felt like I had no belief. That's why I was kind of like just a declared agnostic during that period, because I had not had faith yet. And faith is the active choice to choose in a situation where you don't know either way. But I lived in doubt for years because I was headstrong. And that's why we have atheism today on a global level. They did what I did. These people who, that's the ironic part, is a lot of the people who are atheists now are like the descendants of the most zealous Christians of the Dark and Middle Ages who were killing people for their belief because, this is the truth. There is no argument. It's indisputable. And this is kind of like modern atheists now today. This is the truth. It's indisputable. They're like the same headstrong people who have a hard time just saying, I don't know, we don't know, but this is what I choose to believe. And that's their problem. That's their fault. That stubbornness. The inability to just say, I don't know. And the unwillingness to make a choice. They just sit on the fence. Well, some have made a choice. That's why they call themselves atheists, not agnostics. I remember one time I was on it was a first date. It was the only date, actually. But I was with this one gal. She was in the car. We were getting food. We were eating. I don't even remember where we went, but I just remember we were eating food in my car, and I was talking about the subject of. I think it was on this subject about miracles and so on. And I remember telling her, if everything I said to you this evening, you could just take it or leave it, It's just a guy's opinion. But I said, if I said right now over to that tree, light up, little tree, and it went up on fire, instantaneously, just because I said so, you would be terrified. You would be so terrified, your ability to think and choose and have free will is suspended. You would kind of have to believe what I say. You would have to think I'm from God. Why? Because I just told that little tree to go on fire. And she understood the point that I was making about how It doesn't mean I'm from God or not, just because I can do a miraculous sign. But it does make people believe in that person regardless. It's the dangers of miraculous signs because it's not gathering the free will or consent of the person. For quite a while I wondered, and this is and we even have it recorded where the disciples of Jesus didn't understand. They're like, why is it you show so many of these miracles only to us but not the rest of the world? And I'm giving you the answer to that question. Because if he were to do that, there would be no more free will or consent. He's doing this for people who already had faith, basically. This is why he didn't do any miraculous signs for Herod or for any of the very God-hating cities that he visited and the people that were ready to pick up stones to stone him. This is why he didn't do it for them. You could even say he didn't want them to believe, But there was no faith there. And it would have been a curse to them, and it would have actually been creating an audience of people who, like zombies, they believe only because they saw miraculous signs, like the Old Testament thinking, well, we know you're from God because you did a miraculous sign. That's such an assumption. That's so full of so many mistakes and ignorance, not knowing that demons can do the same thing. It's just, it gets attention. That's all it is. And here's the other thing too. The spirit of pride is going to be a spirit that just does one miracle after another to make people believe, because he doesn't care about free will. He doesn't care about free will. He doesn't care about consent, anything like that, which are key ingredients to this very existence. He just wants power. He just wants worship. That's what the angel of light wants. And so, of course, the angel of light is going to just do one miraculous sign after another in front of everybody, in front of the whole world. Why? To get worldwide worship. And Jesus was not like that, despite having that ability. Now, there were crowds of people, according to the Gospels, there were crowds of people that witnessed some of the miracles. But this was usually a crowd of people who had already accepted him and already chosen to believe he was the Messiah. Again, he did not do this in front of authorities and cities of people who hated him. So there is a little bit of difference. But like I said, the demonic, they're going to do it in front of everyone, and they don't care. Everyone. Their faith doesn't matter. They're doing it for forced submission. I'm not impressed by miraculous signs, by the way. Just if you hadn't guessed already. I can see somebody going around calling fire down from the sky. I can see someone, and that won't sway my belief that Jesus was the Son of God in any way. I know who God is. And that's probably the most important thing. I know who God is. I know who God is. I've seen my place in heaven. I've seen others in heaven. I know who God is. And I don't care how many miracles this being does. If it is unable to forgive, it is not from God. If it has no empathy, it is not from God. If it is a hypocritical spirit, it is not from God. If it is an unfair spirit, it is not from God. And I don't care if it literally calls the moon to crash into another planet in the solar system. It is not from God. I don't care if it can cause all the stars in the universe to blink out and go black. It is not from God. I don't care what it can do. I care about who it is. God is good. God is not a spirit of hypocrisy. God is fair. God is a spirit of empathy. When you know who God is, and please go back to the other recording I posted about that. I break it down very simple in each category about who is God. And when you understand that that is who God is, and you listen to Jesus talk, they align. There is no hypocrisy in Jesus. There is no lack of empathy in Jesus. And Jesus is fair. He's forgiving. And so when you know who God is, this is why Jesus said some people, when they heard Jesus speak, they knew he was from God just because they knew who he was. And that's who Jesus is talking about, that those are the ones who are blessed. They have a relationship with God. They know God. But people who are adulterous to God, who don't know God, they will only follow because of miraculous signs. And so I have a suspicion that in the end of this age, or whatever you want to call it, that there are going to be amazing miraculous signs that go on that mislead the whole world. Even a ton of people that call themselves Christians. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. It's just a name. You're just declaring what you supposedly are. And I don't care about I'm not declaring anything. I'm not trying to bundle myself in a group or any of that. Like, I just know who God is, and that's it. I follow his voice. That's it. I will not be one of those people in the giant mass of people who are misled by miracles that are going on in the world. And it doesn't matter, like I said, how big those miracles are. It will not change who the Spirit is. Now, to keep an open mind, just so you know I'm not completely closed-minded, I am going, if something like this happens on the world stage within my lifetime, I would be scrutinizing. And here's the thing. God would know, if it were truly from God, God would know this is the wise thing to do. He's not going to condemn me for being careful, because he knows we live in a world of demons and liars. I would just be very scrutinizing of this spirit and what it's saying and how it's behaving. And I don't mean just its campaign promises, right? Before the world accepts it. I mean, like, even once it's in power, and if it does rule as a central divine emperor of the world, if you will, I'm going to be scrutinizing what it does. Because I haven't accepted whether it is from God or not. But so many other people, they see one miracle, they're done. They're sold. That's it. Good enough for them. And some people, it's because they're so wanting to believe. They're so quick to believe. This is another thing. And then for other people, especially if this is a being that claims to be from all the world's religions, which is another giant red flag, since we have completely contrary belief systems between the major religions. If it's saying it's from all the world's religions, I'm already like, oh, well, you lost me now. And that's most likely what it's going to do. So I'm already off board now. I'm already in that group of people that's probably going to get rounded up. So, yeah, if something like this happens in my lifetime in the world stage, and there's a good chance it will. We're seeing so many changes technologically, culturally, everything in our time. Everything is accelerating so fast. It would not surprise me if we saw something like this within my lifetime. This is not something that I'd be excited to see, by the way. Only people who are really bored with their lives want to see something terrible like this. Who would want to see the whole world being misled by miraculous signs, following an evil spirit, and rounding up and persecuting those who actually do belong to God? Who would want to see those times? I don't. So I don't have a desire to see these times. I'd be okay to just leave the world before it all happened. That'd be fine. But I am putting a warning out there. The warning's already been out there. Let me elaborate. Jesus already warned us. I'm just kind of paraphrasing and reminding everybody of some of the things Jesus said, that there's going to be a lot of miraculous signs in the end. And Jesus also said that the day of the Son of Man is like a bolt of lightning. When it strikes, everyone will see it. Now, I believe he was referring to everybody. There's two ways of looking at this verse. It either means everyone in the world will see it at the same time, which they like to say like on video camera, or it could also mean everyone who ever lived. The East and the West could represent the past and the future. And so the day of the Son of Man was the time he was in the world, starting at 0 BC, ending at 33 AD, or around that bout. And so before him, you had the Old Testament prophets and other, characters like that were foretelling his coming, meaning they would be in the West who saw the bolt of lightning before it happened, if you will. And then the ones in the East are like us, who are 2,000 years after the events, who simply hear the echoes of the thunder from ground zero. And so that could be another way of looking at that when he says that the day of the Son of Man is a one-time event, is another way you could look at it. And so not a worldwide event, but a one-time event. He said that everyone will see him, even those who pierced him. How could those who pierced him on the cross see him if they're already dead and have been for thousands of years? And so I'm inclined to think that it's more past in the future. And his time, he's saying, in this world is a one-time thing. And that's just my take on it. We don't know for sure. That's just what makes the most sense to me. But What he did say is to warn us, because in the end, before the end of the age, what did that mean? The end of mankind, or the end of the world under evil, before he actually does return? Either one. That in the end, there's all kinds of miraculous signs being done, and the whole world is misled because of these miraculous signs. And they all devote themselves and worship a single entity. And so, watch out. Have we seen that before? Have we seen that yet? Most likely not, unless you want to get really, really metaphorical. But not literally. No, we have not seen that yet. And so if we see that, you could almost just say the first being that does this, you can already pretty much say that's fake. That's not the real thing. Just because it's the first one to fulfill the words that the whole world will be misled by these miraculous signs that this entity does. So, and where's the free will and the consent and all this too? And I think there's going to be a lot of people in the atheist world who are going to be it's really interesting, because in those times, and in times where miraculous signs are misleading the world, you're going to have two groups of people that would have never thought that they would be allies being allies. You're going to have actual Christians, or let me not even use the word Christian since that's been misused so many times. People who actually know who God is are going to end up being mutual allies of very skeptical atheist people. But all that middle group, everyone else, they're going to be along for the ride. And that is the great majority of humanity. So that's another interesting thing to think about. But that's not the first time in history. There have been times like that, even under the Catholic reign, where that's when they were burning people at the stake. Who were they burning at stake? They were burning actual followers of God, and they were burning followers of God. They were burning witches, and they were burning atheists. They were burning everyone who was not in that great submissive, blind bulk of lemmings that are going over the edge. The great mass that Jesus talks about, the great many people who come claiming him as their Lord, but don't even know who he is, who claim to even done miracles in his name, who spoke in his name, prophesied in his name, and he's going to say, I never knew you. These are the great many people I'm talking about that are the lemmings that are going at the edge of the cliff. So yeah, it wouldn't be the first time then that actual believers, actual followers of God, there we go. Let me stop saying the word believer, because that's very vague too. A follower of Jesus. Actual followers of Jesus. There we go. I'm going to say all these words now just for one idea. Actual followers of Jesus. AFJ. Actual followers of Jesus. They're going to be in the same concentration camp as atheists and anyone else who's on the outskirts who doesn't believe in the miraculous signs. All right, I think that should probably end this video. I used to feel like I like to make a concluding statement. Before I do, it feels wrong to just say, okay, the end. So, a miraculous sign is not a reason to believe something. It's just a reason to pay attention to something. If you know who God is, none of this really matters in terms of like miraculous signs and being misled and all that. If you know who God is, you can't be misled. If it were possible, as they most likely added later on in Scripture. He deceived everyone, even the elect, and then comma, if that were possible. I always just shake my head at that. Like, makes me wonder if the original line wasn't, he deceives everyone, even the elect, period. And then the later people were like, well, that's not possible. The elect can't be deceived. Okay, that was a mistake. We're going to add a comma. We're going to say, if that were possible. And now we're going to add even more confusion to the ages, because then what does that even mean? If you know who God is, even though initially you might be very amazed by the signs, eventually you will know and reject the imposter, and miraculous signs won't affect you eternally. For those who do not know who God is, you're going to get misled by miraculous signs. Plain and simple. If you don't know who God is, that's literally the only thing that you should be focused on right now. You need to drop whatever you're working on, thinking about, whatever, until you can tell someone else who is God. Oh, I got to talk about Toby for a second. I spent 16 and a half years with Toby, my dog who passed in June of 24. I know who Toby is. I could tell you how he would react in every situation. Without any surprise or doubt, I watched him for 16 and a half years. I know from when he was a puppy to when he was old. I know who Toby is. So if a fake Toby came back into the world and says, "Hey, Daniel, it's me, Toby. Look, miracles. I've risen from the dead," but is not behaving like Toby, is not Toby, then I will know it's an imposter. Because I know who Toby is. This is just an analogy, but if you know who God is, then it doesn't matter what miraculous signs are done. You can't be misled. Because you know who he is, and you know he wouldn't do this, he wouldn't say this. That's not who he is. Knowing who God is the most important thing you could know. All right, I'm going to end it on that note. Until next time.